Greetings, everyone, and welcome once more to the Dracovin Empire. Are you ready to dive back into the world of Golarion, the setting for Pathfinder role-playing game today? Because today, we are heading to Golarion, kind of, but we're really heading to one of the outer planes deeply connected to Golarion, Abaddon. So if you're ready to head to this very dangerous and dark place, I am your host and guide, I can lead you there safely, protect you from the Daemons, which rule this place. If we are to go, a little tip would help, like subscribing the bell, and let me know your experiences in the Pathfinder world with Daemons. First, second edition, remaster. Let me know what you've got. Alright. I've opened the gate. Grab my hand. Abaddon awaits. We'll be close to Golarion. We are going to a very dangerous spot. So be on guard. Daemons will be there. A bleak, terrible people. That's not what we're here to talk about. No! We are here to observe the very creatures that are the essence of Abaddon in many ways. The Daemon. And their twisted rulers and gods. But if I were to dive into Abaddon myself, learn more about it, find more information beyond just some of the things I'm saying here, there are sources. Of course, the Monster Core gives stats for the number of daemons that I'm going to be talking about, and you can go into details in more individual ones. But for some other sources, which are fairly useful, you can, of course, go to the Horseman of the Apocalypse, the Book of the Damned, Volume 3. That gives a good idea on the rulers and hierarchy of Abaddon in there. And on the other hand, there is also our good book there at the end, which deals with some of the other divine sources within Abaddon, divine mysteries. We'll talk about all of these books and how we will use them. But again, I'm going to only go over some of the things here and not go over other things in depth. I'll kind of talk about which ones we're going to learn about and which ones you might want to research more and which ones I might not visit. I might. Let's begin, though, and talk about what are daemons. That's a very good place to start with, of course. They are a relatively young, fiendish race, and they are tied into the existence of mortals they prey upon. They are insidious, they are in many ways considered evil, unholy, terrible, fiends in themselves. They concern themselves with the destruction of life. They feast on mortal souls, focus on their existence. They are creatures of the apocalypse itself, and make their home in battle. The bleak and terrible plane has shaped these creatures. The death of every mortal life, painful, horrible, by all means possible, serves them and their dark leaders, the Apocalypse Rulers. Each daemon represents a different way to die, and their powers are nearly always aimed at spreading that particular form of death. Through the use of these powers, they want to drag all existence into a pit of hopelessness, despair, and commit all souls to oblivion. They are bringers of the apocalypse, and they will do so efficiently and to the best of their degree. I'm looking at a nice Astro Daemon here. So we start out there with the Leuco Daemon as our first image. We'll talk about these types in a little bit. But the fact is, at the beginning of mortal life, Abaddon was empty, devoid of anything. And it remains so, even as the first souls died and were judged by Pharazôn. There was the first cataclysms within the universe, within Golarion and the various planets. This caused an influx of souls, and this influx overflew the river of souls. And some of these souls washed on Abaddon, never reaching the bone. One of these souls was one filled with hatred, rage, and self-loathing, and all others combined and coalesced with this soul to form the first daemon, which then devoured otherwise evil souls to gain power. This first daemon began to twist Abaddon into something as evil and terrible as itself. He called fellow evil souls to them, who were unable to resist. Many were eaten, but some of them became daemons like himself. They diversified in form, grew in numbers, and this first daemon, the Bound Prince, created the first Apocalypse Riders as his chosen servants. This is information that we have from older books, that the name of this figure, which only is hinted at within the lore of current remaster project, is called the Bound Prince here. But once we talk about it, his name has been lost to current daemons. Maybe a reason why it's not talked about, except in the lore. So, the daemons continue to consume these souls that were washed up. But the Bound Prince launted the gods that all souls that came to abandon would be discovered. Pharasma listened, and created the devouring court within the bone room. This is one of the 8 courts that corresponds to various places that souls will be sent to. This is where she would send the souls of damned to a battle, delivering them to the Riders. The Raiders saw that their leaders, creating the Astradaemons, and they interpret this as a sign of distrust, ended up betraying him in the ruined spire, erasing all memories of him from records. We'll talk about what they say about the Bound Prince, but now he's gone. And the Riders will overturn the first. They won't always be the first when we talk about them in the second. But as for now, they rule. Now the other big major thing is daemons are responsible for demons. Yeah, one of the only fiendish races younger than daemons is demons. Why? Well, one of the ancient riders that has long since been forgotten and been replaced was fascinated with clip-offs, the natural creatures of the Outer Rifts, the home that now demons rule. Of course, then, he had an idea of combining larvae and clip-offs, and created the first demon. This transformation of a mortal soul into a demon was noticed, because they were using a clip-off, by the Outer Rifts. The realm itself felt this cosmic shift of creating something new, and copied. One instant, millions of larvae, evil souls sent to the Outer Rifts, transformed into demons. Yes. The daemons created the demons. They conquered the Outer Rifts from the clip-off, and then invaded Abaddon. And it took a massive amount of time for the daemons to finally drive the demons back and make sure they reclaimed Abaddon fully. So, they almost created their own downfall by doing this. One of the Apocalypse Riders. Bound Prince wouldn't have caused this kind of problem, I'm just saying, just saying. You kind of caused a problem there. So yes, the Bound Prince, Onio Daemon, first Daemon, eldest, the most mysterious of the Apocalypse Riders. Imprisoned. Dead, perhaps. A thing that's not worshipped by any, as it's been lost to the ages. Let's talk about the Apocalypse Riders. These are the Apocalypse Riders, Riders of the Apocalypse, the 4 Horsemen, Archdemons, the Endbringers. They're unique daemons that have attained the power of demigods. They rule Abaddon and have hordes of daemons under their service. They even have other demigod-like daemons under their service. Each one has an idea. War, disease, famine, death. These titles are coveted, sought after by daemonkind. And each one has their own legion of servitors, deacons, destroyers. The current ones are Apollyon, rider of pestilence, who rules Plague, Charon, rider of death, who rules the river Styx, Suzuriel, rider of war, who resides over the Cinder Furnace, and Trelmarxian, rider of famine, who rules Wasted. Of course, the Bound Prince, his existence lost to the ages. Whatever happened to him in the end, no one knows. Only Charon has never fallen to an upstart. Charon is the only of the riders that is the original ones, created by the Bound Prince. That 5th rider, well, the eternally eclipsed sun in the skies above Abaddon is said to be the remains of the long-dead god. Is that true? Is it just something imprisoned? Is that where the bound prince is? Who knows? But that's probably the best answer you can get out of any of them at this point in time. And the best answer you can probably get out of Charon, the Rider, did. So yes, all the others have had multiple forms, multiple replacements, multiple members. Some of which we know of, others we might not. We do know the original ones. Thuria, the parasite queen for famine, Azolus, the corrupting for pestilence, and Horaskim, the original rider of war. Others have replaced them. We know the ones that are now, but Charon has remained since the beginning of Daemon, the first of the riders, and the only one that has not been replaced. Famine, pestilence, and war can be replaced, but can you replace it itself? Now, I'll leave this here because I could talk about each of the different riders in more in detail, but I feel like perhaps saving them as either a video on their own, or talking about each of them on their own would be more respectful, because they are demigods, they are worshipped, and they are great sources of power. But I hope you understand what they are. So below the Apocalypse Riders, you get the beings that could be a possible replacement for them, the Harbingers. So these are the top tier among the daemons. They have risen to powers. Some of them are deacons of the riders. They're usually subservient to the archdemons. They're also competitors. These Harbingers, demigods unto themselves, are where the replacements from daemon kind come for the riders. These are the beings closest to them that could possibly do that. These Harbingers are an apex. They are desperate, selfish, broken, and want to rule over the apocalypse. So yes, they are the point in time where you point to a daemon and you're like, are these things even remember a semblance of their mortal beings they once were? And no one can tell you. This is Livon Telly. Livon Tinna. The chain and the cradle. Mother of all petitioners who can't seem to let their beloved offspring go. She corrupts emotions that come from watching over and caring someone, making it obsession. Insisting that the control is the ultimate form of love and devotion, and drives her followers to commit selfish acts against those they're supposed to protect. What good is a baby bird if it flies too far from the nest? She appears as an elderly woman with dozens of scorched skeletal arms. So yes, this is only one example. There are many names of Harbingers. I can go through them here. I will go through some of them here. Azdareth, Agius, Anogetz, Archelamas, Brasimos, Sycrion, Corsabel. I'm probably butchering some of these. Desiad, Elades, Gion, Hastrikel, Jakaris, our friend here, Villamuk, Minok, Mungder, Osmiar, Harv Nuri, Rogolos, Rukaparis, Slan Drace, Stygovid, Jaime, Treslovis, Borisha, Zeistien, Zygmusar, and Jelstark. So, those are demonic harbingers. Now granted, they aren't the only divine beings that make their home in Abaddon. There are some gods and other divine creatures that do, but all of these are daemonic harbingers. They are daemons. They are demigods. Some of them have worship, and they are the closest things to the riders. But they do serve the riders. They are beneath them. Mostly. they are largely subservient to others. But again, one sign of weakness, and perhaps our good friend here, Lavrent Tinino, will find an opportunity and replace me, become a new rider. Maybe, maybe not, but something that all those Harbingers are looking out for. An opportunity to strike, to replace, to conquer. So, here's a Ecology, Daemon. While mortals can sometimes summon demons as destructing, corrupting forces, they are usually out for themselves, no matter if they're being brought there for help. They want to spread fear, doubt, despair. They disguise their plots as working for other fiends, sowing confusion, compounding mortals' fears, and keeping the mortals from bringing the most effective weapons. Basically, as a result, learned mortals sometimes refer to daemons as riders and their leaders as soul mongers in their largest industry. Because many fiends seek to tempt mortals in lives of nihilistic evil or to increase their own numbers or power on the native planes, daemons have a further supernatural hunger for mortal souls and use a variety of methods, including Tacrodemon soul gems, to entrap them. On Abaddon and other forbidden places in the multiverse, souls are delicacy, a trade good, a source of magical power, and daemons are the most gluttonous merchants and abusers of these treasures. Souls. It's just what a daemon wants. So yeah. There's also a paradox to daemons. Because they are incarnations of death, and they seek to devour all that lives. They're living creatures. Some speak of glorious end times in which the reality will finally be free of the contagion that is life. Most daemons don't really care about the paradox. They're just like, yeah, let's destroy everything. It's in their nature. It doesn't matter to them. Yeah. So, it's an interesting position that daemons are in when it comes to reality. Not really great to summon, because they're probably going to do stuff to corrupt you, mess with you, and drive you down darker paths than you're already going down, even by summoning them in the first place. They are going to lead you to the destruction of death, and, your soul. It's great currency for them, so that's probably what they're going to trade for. Not a great situation. Alright, let's talk about the different types of daemons. And I can go... there's so many of them, it's hard to go to depths. Now, Monster Core only has 4 new ones. It mentions another 3 of the older ones. There's a few more that were in 2nd edition, and a lot more than were 1st edition. I'm going to say, because daemons are uniquely Pathfinder, and none of this stuff has really changed from 1st edition, probably all of these are accurate and still could be used. You just have to upgrade many of them to 2nd edition. So I'm not going to go into full depths about any of these. And also this is a Vene daemon over here. But I'll go into little bits of information about all of them, just to give you an idea about them. Okay? Cool. Let's do this. So there is the Arcade daemon, who are servants of famine and are known for spreading terror with the fact that they are part human, part swarm, swarms of creatures, perhaps death by a devouring swarm. They don't mention this. Astrodaemons. Oh, Astrodaemons. We cannot forget them. These are one of the ones in Monster Core. Hurrah. And they themselves are the death by direct assault against the soul or life force. That's always pleasant sounding. That's what they represent. The Bibliodaemons, hell of names, are death that personifies death by paperwork. Basically, a village that starves due to bureaucracy, delayed aid, a person sent to hang for a transcript error. That's where you get this person who goes. Daemon. Hey, we've mentioned them here once with their soul gems. But what do they personify? The embodiments of violence and spite spawned from eddies of angry, warped souls amongst the heaven's mists. So they are kind of like anger and that. It is an amalgam of various petty forms of death, so it's not really one creature for Daemon. Interestingly enough, they're kind of a combination. They're only level 1. Daemon. This is summoning fire. They are those death by their own hand, taking oneself out. That is the death they personify, and they do have lesser and greater forms in these first edition. Daemon is represented by death by trap and torture. And they are big on spreading pain and terror. Daemon personifies the death resulting from violent insanity, by being murdered by a maniac or torn to shreds by rabid predators. Daemon, personification of death by heartbreak, crushing despair which leads to one's death. Pathinder. They are very common in the demonic armies. They personify death in hopeless and futile wars, genocide, or despair created by long-delayed stalemates. Daemon. Well, they, of course, personify death by drink. Again, that's one that we don't necessarily have the full idea about that, but from abilities, I assume that's what it is. There's a few of these that I'm making a little bits of leaps of logic in, because in first edition we didn't have full information for this. So, yes, it's also one of the few creatures that are able to survive in the river Styx. Daemon. So, yeah, that's kind of fearsome. A creature of the river Styx. I do think drowning is probably good. Demon. These are another one that's not very powerful, but personifies death by neglect or exposure to elements. Daemon. These are another one that personifies basically when a mortal dies after a sudden fall. Sudden death, sudden fall. That can create a Daemon, which I was showing off earlier in Monster Core. Yes. They are basically representing souls that died to disease. Manifestation of that. Hey, death by disease. Daemon. These are death by starvation and thirst. Daemon. Daemon. Death by exploitation and extreme exertion. Daemon. Again, these are not always easy to personify or to say, names. This is wanton destruction, slaughter of all mortal life. These are some of the top tier daemons. When a mortal commits things like genocide, it can become an daemon. It's stripping away the veneer of honor in the battlefield and the wartime. This is the worst parts of dying in war. This isn't meaningless deaths in war. This is slaughter manifest. That is why these powerful creatures are. The Olethero Daemon. That is a mouthful. They're juggernauts of the four hordes. A very powerful one. Embodiment of death and destruction in a lot of ways. The Plasma Daemon. Death by personification by fright. or perhaps illusions which cause. Pescado Day. These are aquatic ones. I'm not showing off the pictures because there's way too many pictures here, so apologies if you're looking for the pictures. I'm just trying to go over the basics of them right now. But thanks for this. Or mentioned that in chat. I probably could have gone and tried to find all the pictures for all of these, but it would have been a lot of them, and I just want to quickly step on each of these. It's another one of the water-based ones. Yep, thank you though. Parao Demon. These are the ravages of the massive battle and the results afterwards. Sanguidaemon. Death by blood loss. Sepsa Daemon. Death by gangrene, infection, necrotic decay. Supria Daemon. Making things personification of suffocation and strangulation. Temur Daemon. Accidental death. Thana Daemon. These represent death in some factions. The Deacons of Death. Death by old age. The Venedaemon. Basically, these death by magic. Showing him off here. Or basically, people that had died in horrible ways in a manner of sorcery that may have caused their own death. And the final one from First Edition, which many of these are in Second Edition, and some of them could be converted to Second Edition, is, of course, the Volno Daemon, which is a personification of death resulting from murder accented with betrayal. Betrayal murder, especially those by family and friends. That was a little bit more than I probably should have maybe had a few pictures there for them. But honestly speaking, it is hell of a list from First Edition. And I wanted to give a kind of expression of, there are a lot of different types of daemons. And there are some that were also still in Second Edition, some that have only been First Edition, and some that have been, in Monster Corps, even mentioned in Monster Corps. So, there is a heck of variety, because, Monster Corps mentions 3 or 4 more of those that aren't in Monster Corps. That's 8 of those there. There are many types, just like there are many types of demons, many types of devils. Daemons are just the same, many types of clip-offs. Anyway, to finish up, let's talk a little bit about on Golarion for our good friends, the daemons here. Because there is one area where daemons show up on Golarion, the planet itself, in great deal. In Quadri and the Mezir Desert, there is the ruins of the Sun-Bleached Tower. For whatever reason, this tower draws daemons to it like moths to a flame. Something about this tower just attracts daemons and makes it similar to places like you have the World Wound, where demons were all over the place. Sun-Bleached Tower just is this massive structure that's made of interlocking human bones and attracts daemons. Yeah. Made of human bones. Maybe that's why they like it. It is a personification of death itself in a lot of ways, just as they are. Sun-Bleached Tower in Quadri. It's a hell of a thing. But it's one of those places we can point out and be like, yeah, there be daemons here. But I think that'll be it for today. I do think maybe I probably should have a few more daemon pictures in there, but it's one of those things as me wanting to talk about all different types of daemons. At least mentioning a lot of different types of them. I did not know how much I wanted to go into. I went through the name list of Harbingers, just so that you feel like, oh, there sounds like it's interesting ones. Maybe I want to look into them a little bit more, just so you have the names. And there are a lot of sources that have the Harbingers. Divine Mystery, the Divine Mysteries book that I talked about. It's got a pretty good list of some basic information about, nearly a dozen of them, half dozen to a dozen different Daemon Harbingers. And yes, they again are still demigods. They're not quite the Horseman, but they are still powerful. But there are ones that I probably won't do more videos and stuff on, because honestly speaking, we know maybe a couple paragraphs about most of them, but they are minor players in the big things. The Apocalypse Riders. They are truly the Lords of the Battle. They earn that right by slaying, imprisoning the first of their kind, who created them That betrayal has been a major part of this, but still, all demons seek the end of all things. There's a reason why they are the Apocalypse Riders. That's what they seek. The end of all things. The destruction of all things. The destruction of all life. And their own. But that doesn't matter to them. Everything must be destroyed. And similar to, we know of our 4 horsemen of death. It's the same ones. 4 horsemen that we speak of are the 4 horsemen of the back. Maybe not truly the same names, same ideas. Death, famine, pestilence, war. Great destructions that come upon the land and the people. Should the Apocalypse Riders walk Golarion, it would be devastating. But they rule from above, under their servants, and send them out to do their bidding, to bring more delicious souls to them, cause more destruction, bring people down the path that draws them. Perhaps it creates another Daemon, or perhaps it's just another soul for the gems to trade and devour. It's hard to say, but they are truly some of the most darkest and terrible creatures in the multiverse, in the universe around the world. Clip-offs are alien monsters that think nothing of murder, but they aren't slaughterers wholesale. They're just corruptors. Devils will make a deal with you. Demons, well, they love the violence, but will make a deal with you. Demons? Perhaps not one. It's not even a rule. But that'll be it for me. I hope you enjoyed diving into an interesting outsider. As much as I wanted to do maybe demons or devils first, I felt demons were more appropriate because, kind of worse in a lot of ways. It's sort of like in the old system where we had alignment, they were neutral, kind of evil for evil's sake. Now they're just horrible, unholy fiends that are trying to bring about an apocalypse and slaughter all life. Not really much better. Not really much better. Unholy fiends are unholy fiends in the end. But if you want to see more of my things, make sure you're checking me out either over live on Twitch or over on YouTube. All my tabletop-related stuff gets uploaded over onto YouTube. All the other stuff, you have to go to Twitch to join me and see all my gaming, chatting, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's kind of where the content goes. I have a live play of Pathfinder 2nd Edition on Wednesdays at 8, Fall Pattern as well. I have Discussing Tabletop Saturdays at 6. This is my kind of talk showy, kind of podcasty thing. Not a true podcast yet, but I'll make it one eventually. Where I, talk about news of the week and interesting discussion topics in the tabletop world. Check out my social media link below. That's Discord, Twitter, /X, Blue Sky, all those great places. And of course, just remember to give that support to the channel here. And what do you think about all these things with all the daemons? Are they something that you think it makes sense for some kind of villain to make a deal with? Maybe one that's trying to end the world, yeah. But certainly speaking, it's an interesting thought about what you think about all this. Let me know. Alright, I'm gonna get going. For the next time, hang out, talk about Golarion, do anything else. I bid all of you out there a deep and wonderful farewell.